Thank you. An estimated 100 million in scholarship money goes unawarded each year, mostly due to a lack of applicants. Educational debt is the fastest growing debt category in America today. And as of 2020, the average borrower owes almost $38,000 in student loans. Good evening, students and parents. I am Gloria McKerney, former principal of Olympic View Elementary School and now a director of the Eastlake Educational Foundation, which supports and has supported all of our Eastlake schools for the past 27 years. Thank you for joining us this evening to hear from our own Eastlake High School alumni share their experiences when successfully applying for college scholarships. Thank you, panel members, for giving us your time and sharing your wisdom. This panel is brought to you by a partnership between Eastlake High School and the Eastlake Educational Foundation. We have come together to form the Eastlake High School Alumni and Friends Association to connect Eastlake High School students with Eastlake High School alumni and community members. You can find us and register on the web to be a member of the Alumni Association at eastlakealumni.org. At the end of the panel, we will have a drawing for two $50 gift cards provided by one of our partners, North Island Credit Union. It is now my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Eastlake High School Class of 2016 and Berkeley Class of 2020, Kendall Noggle.
Hi there. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. I think we have an amazing panel in store. We have two panelists with us today. We have Connie and Justine. So we'll go ahead and have them introduce themselves. We'll have Connie go first. So Connie, if you want to give a little introduction.
Hi everyone, I'm Connie Quinn Fife. I was a Eastlake alumni, or I am an Eastlake alumni. I graduated Eastlake in 2011, and after that I went on to receive my undergraduate at Stanford University, majored in public policy, and then also got my master's in public policy from Stanford right after. So I am a Stanford grad 2015 and 2016, and I applied for a lot of scholarships and was fortunate to receive a lot of scholarships. Kendall had asked us for a list of scholarships that we had been awarded, so brought back a lot of memories, and just would like to pass on all of the information that I learned from applying for scholarships on to the next generation, because free money is great money.
That is very true. Thank you so much, Connie, for being here. And our second panelist is Justine. So Justine, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Justine. I graduated from Eastlake High School, class of 2013. I was about to say 2020 something. And I went to Southwestern first. So I did community college first for 4 years and then transferred to San Diego State. I got my bachelor's in kinesiology, emphasis in pre-physical therapy, graduated class of 2020. And now I'm currently at the University of Southern California. I'm studying for my doctorate in physical therapy. So I am a doctoral candidate for class of 2024. And throughout the experience, I did my best to really work and just pay for college. But you know what? Grad school, there is no time to work. So, yep, I'll be kind of talking about loans later on too, but I did apply for a lot of scholarships and I got a couple good ones. So I would love to share my experience about those. Some of them are pretty fun, and a couple of which I didn't think scholarships could come in that form.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Justine. We are also glad that you are here. Cool. So I'm going to give kind of a brief rundown of how this evening will pan out. We have quite a few questions for both of our panelists that we have pre-written. So we'll be having the panelists answer those. But throughout that time that they're answering our pre-written questions, please feel free to drop any questions you might have into the chat below. We will have some people monitoring those questions. And so after the end of these first set of questions, we'll be answering your own questions. And we have a cool closing at the end with a little bit of a raffle. So make sure you stay for the whole event. There's going to be some great advice given. And yeah, we'd love to hear all the questions that you have. So we have a first question that will be directed to Connie first. And Justine, if after Connie's done, you'd like to chime in, feel free. So the first question is, how do I know if I am a possible candidate to receive a scholarship?
Yes, so I'm taking on this question. Lots, or pretty much all scholarships have, I'm losing my words right now, sorry, it's been a long day. Most scholarships, if not all scholarships, have list of qualifications for potential applicants to apply for. So they could be a whole host of different qualifications, minimum GPA, certain background, certain financial background, socioeconomic, different sports related ones. So there are scholarships for all different types of fields and interests and backgrounds, and you just need to find them. I know that I'm sure it's going to be shown soon, but there is a link that students have put together already with a list of scholarships that are available. And so essentially you just go through the scholarships, find the scholarships, and all of them will say who they're looking for and the requirements to apply, whether it be minimum GPA, minimum SAT, ACT score, a specific type of sport, just like there's a lot of different qualifications. So that is how you're going to be determining if you are a good candidate. If you can check all of those boxes, that is amazing. And then you would be a strong candidate for that scholarship. Kendall, are you going to share that screen with everyone that has the link to the Google Doc with the various scholarship applications?
So we have kind of a slide of resources that we'll be sharing at the end. Yeah, thank you. And actually that list of resources was put together by our very own EHS counselor, Alex Connor. So Alex will be sharing the role of moderator with me. And Alex, go ahead and take it away with the next question.
Hi, everyone. The next question is for Justine. Justine, does it cost money to apply for a scholarship?
This is a very short answer. No, it should not cost you anything. If you have an application that is asking for maybe like your social security, credit card information, things of that matter that are pretty sensitive, run away. You might be scammed. We don't want that happening to you, okay? Just wanted to make that super clear. Do not, it should not cost you money because they're the ones giving you money, first of all.
Connie, do you have anything to add to that with regards to the question of the cost of money or the cost to apply for scholarships, or anything that you'd like to add?
No. Don't pay anyone to try to get money. That never turns out well.
Thank you. That's very good information for students and parents to know.
Excellent. So our third question for you, Connie, what is the general timeline to apply to scholarship?
Great question. There are scholarships year round, so it varies greatly, but now is the perfect time to apply for scholarships right after most seniors have already applied for colleges. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a hot minute, but I think like the UC systems and the state schools was October, maybe September deadline, not sure. Most private schools are at the end of the year. So now that that is done and most students have already applied for colleges, now is a great time where most of the scholarships are opening up for those seniors. And the sooner the better. So a lot of scholarships, their timeline just creeps up on you. And you need to be very diligent about marking on your calendar the due dates. I was very frustrated that I missed a deadline for a scholarship that my brother previously had been awarded the previous year. So I was like, I'm pretty sure I could get this one. And I just missed the scholarship deadline. I had everything ready to send out. At that time, when I was applying for scholarship, it needed to be time-stamped when you mail it out. And I missed it and I was so bummed. So it's super important as you're applying to all of these scholarships, because you're gonna try to cast your web out like really wide and apply for everything under the sun. You need to be diligent about looking at the timeline. What's the deadline? When does it need to be postmarked? Are you going to need letters of recommendations? Do you need your official transcript? And then that takes time to get as well. So you just need to be mindful, be organized, set a calendar, and just maybe a Gantt chart, like start kind of monitoring when deadlines are approaching. But now is the best time to start applying, because your senior is going to be, your senior or you are going to be in college very soon. So that is, now is the time to apply. Justine, do you have anything else to add for that on timeline? Sooner the better.
Yeah, definitely the sooner the better, but also just take into consideration, if you look at the information for each specific scholarship, just plan ahead, because depending on who's offering the scholarship, it might be different and you don't want to miss that date.
Thank you both. The next question is for Justine. Well, again, can I get more than one scholarship?
That one really depends. For the most part, it's really rare for me to see a scholarship that says, oh, you're going to be disqualified if you have this other scholarship as well. So it's pretty variable to what you're receiving. But I guess you should probably spend some time looking into the scholarship that you're receiving once maybe perhaps you were officially awarded, just in case there was a fine line, because once you're awarded, you don't want to risk that. You don't want to potentially lose that scholarship that you just won. So just be very careful and make sure to read the fine lines and make sure you're honest and that you're disclaiming or you're disclosing any information that the scholarship committee is supposed to know. Connie, did you have anything to add? You have 1 million scholarships, right?
Yeah, I got most scholarships are not going to say like, hey, if we give you money, you can't accept money from other people. But there might be there are some caveats with like scholarships specific to, I can reference my brother because he got a lot of scholarships too. He got the Cox Communication Scholarship, and that one was specific. You had to use it within schools in San Diego. So there are scholarships that have those specific criteria. And so if my brother chose not to go to school in San Diego, then he would not have gotten that scholarship, right? Or like he would have had to turn that scholarship down, and it would have had to gone to another person, or it would go into that $1 million pot of money of scholarships that aren't awarded. So just read the fine print. I know you're gonna probably be applying for a lot of stuff, but read the fine print on like if you're awarded, or like what the stipulations are for each category, for each scholarship.
Great. Thank you both for that one. Next one for Connie. Can you talk a little bit about what types of scholarships there are? Maybe tell the difference between like merit-based type scholarships and need-based type scholarships.
Yeah, so kind of how it goes, merit-based scholarship will be based on merit that is quantifiable, like your GPA, your SAT. Yeah, that's pretty much it, how they're gonna judge you on that. And then there's needs-based, which is more socioeconomic, your family's financial situation. And so those are the two extremes, but generally most scholarships are a combination of both. Maybe there's probably more scholarships towards the merit-based that you're gonna be able to see and apply for. The needs-based one is, for needs-based scholarships specifically, are very, they have a lot of steps and documents you need to send to verify that you do really need these funds. So, but you're going to see a lot of hybrid ones. So you're needs-based, even if it's needs-based, most of the time it's also merits-based. They are going to ask you for your transcript and your extracurricular activities and all of that stuff. Merit-based, most scholarships do ask you for your transcript and an essay of some sort. And yeah, so those are the two very polar types of scholarships, but there's a everywhere in between. There's a scholarship for everything. And in the resource document that is going to be provided at the end, you can see there's a scholarship for writing how to escape the zombie apocalypse or something. Like, there's really scholarships for everything and anything, and go for them. And the more boxes you can check, the better chances you have.
Thank you. Justine, did you want to add anything to the last question with regards to the types of scholarship, merit-based or need-based, or are you ready for the next question?
I'm ready for the next question. Connie touched on everything pretty well. And yeah, it's going to say on the scholarship what kind it is, and it shows what makes you eligible for them.
Thank you for sharing that information. I do see some questions in the chat. We will have time for a question and answer. And a lot of the questions that I saw in the chat are going to be covered in this panelist presentation. So I thank you guys for your patience. Connie, the next question is, where do you find information? Where do I find information on available scholarships, and how can I start applying?
That's on you, Justine.
Okay, so I actually see on the chat this specifically answers Ellie and Gabe's questions. So I was pretty conservative with how I looked for scholarships, because I was scared that I was going to get abducted, or I'm going to give enough information to know where to get me. So I mostly relied on my school. And how to start applying, like literally just apply, see what you need in the scholarship, and just start. I think sometimes that's one of the first hurdles that you will experience. Just start your application. Something that Miss Gloria mentioned earlier was that so many scholarships don't even get awarded. And from personal experience, when I was going to Southwestern College, they have at one point extended the deadline twice in one scholarship cycle because not enough students applied. So that's a bummer. That's a lot of money. That's free money right there for your education. So literally just apply, look for what you need to apply, and just start the process, and everything's going to come into place. Another option is just to go to maybe your school's financial aid website, or better yet, ask them yourself. Maybe sometimes you go to the website and there's not a lot of application information there, and it's probably because your school might not be accepting applications because they have a specific time period. So unless you have that cycle open, then you won't really see what scholarships are there that's being offered, and how are you eligible, how much is each scholarship. And I'm actually going to share a link for what the scholarship portal looks like for SDSU. And it's a good example of a website that we have scholarships. You don't see it until you make that portal. So sometimes you have to go get that extra step. So again, just because you look for it on the website, you can't find it. Don't assume that they don't exist. They probably do exist. It's just that information isn't available online. So please talk to your financial aid representative or maybe to your counselor. Just be proactive. You can also join clubs and organizations. Some of them do offer scholarships. Maybe you can get some from volunteering. In fact, my first one was actually from volunteering in Sharp Chula Vista at the pharmacy, because way back when I thought I was going to be a pharmacy student, but I decided I don't like pharmacy anymore. But yeah, I think I had like $500. It's something small, but you know, it adds up. It makes a difference. And when I was, like 15, I thought, oh my gosh, $500 is a lot of money. So it's super exciting. But yeah, and then like I was saying earlier, sometimes scholarships can be disguised, and sometimes maybe they come in a form of work. And one of the scholarships that I received was actually because of research. So I used to be in a biomechanics lab at SDSU. And if you take all of the research assistants, because we're not getting paid, and because our specific role, depending on which research study that you do, has scholarship, it kind of feels like a job, but it's technically a scholarship to them because you're doing something that they don't typically pay students to do. So just be open-minded. Again, just be proactive in looking for these opportunities.
Thank you. And also thank you for sharing the SDSU financial aid scholarship link. We do have quite a few students at Eastlake High School that are applying to San Diego State through Compact for Success. And for those students and parents who are in this panelist presentation, if you click on the chat box, there is a link there. And it would be good to also bookmark that link so you have it for reference after this presentation, so you may look through the scholarship opportunities online.
Great, wonderful. And this next question is actually pretty similar, but we would love to hear Connie's point of view. What additional resources were you able to find scholarships with, Connie? Like that includes any kind of online scholarships, maybe even scholarships that were offered and advertised, you know, in the physical world outside of online. So what kind of places were you able to find scholarships in?
Yeah, so actually, I benefited a lot from my older brother, who was a year older than me at Eastlake High School. And Eastlake High School every year has, at the end of the year for seniors, has an awards night for, I don't know if you still have it, but and an awards night for everyone who won scholarships that senior year would go up and people would say what scholarship they won and all that. So I kept the brochure from my brother's year. And I'm like, okay, well, if someone in that year was able to get this, I'm generally probably around like the same like demographics that they're looking for. Or a lot of times it's local scholarships as well. And that's where I was all like, there are so many scholarships out there. And I know you're probably overwhelmed by looking at all of the national scholarships and all of the essays you have to write and everything. My advice for you is to start local. When you start local, the amount of applicants greatly decreases, okay? So Alex, if you have all of those years of what previous students have gotten their scholarships and compiled it into the list, that is the list that everyone should be starting their search from, because someone from Eastlake was able to earn that scholarship. So maybe you or your student would also be able to qualify. And that is my biggest advice. And that's how I got a lot of my scholarships, was because a lot of those on the list were local, that students have already been approached for applying, or yeah. So to name a few, there's like the Bonita Optimist, there's the Elks Lodge, there's the Boys and Girls Club, YMCA has scholarships. Like all of those are more community-based. So like you're in the community, your students are in the community. Usually the scholarships are, the essays are around like, what are you doing with the community and all that stuff. So you have like a better chance of receiving those than like maybe how to escape the zombie apocalypse. Like you might be competing with someone who's like dad and mom are like part of the Walking Dead. I don't know, like the wider net you cast, the more competition you have, in my opinion. But that's just how I started my scholarship search, because there was just way too many scholarships out there. So I needed to narrow it down and figure out, okay, what's the most chance that I can actually receive these scholarships. So I applied to a lot of local ones. There's MTS, there's Cox, there was the junior SAO one that I got. So there's a lot of local opportunities that I would say start there and then start at the county and then start at the state and then maybe then go national.
Wonderful advice. Thanks so much, Connie.
Thank you, Connie. Back to Justine. The next question is, will I need to provide other information besides an application for a scholarship?
I think that ties back into what Connie was talking about earlier. If you're applying for something need-based, then maybe you need to provide information on your household income. Otherwise, there isn't really that much information. Like pretty much what I was saying earlier, if they ask for those sensitive information, do not provide it. Please exit out from that browser. You might get a virus. I don't know, something bad might happen. And yeah, the only thing I can think of other than like the application itself with those basic information is probably essays, which you can start prepping for as early as now, especially if writing creatively isn't really part of your, your tool belt. It's definitely not mine. I hated writing essays. I don't know how I ended up in English honors in junior year, but yeah, just practice and figure out, you have so many stories to tell. Figure out what story you want to tell for this specific one. What story would be the best to share and what addresses the prompt. And if you have a lot of stories that fit those two and they both address the prompt, then think about this a different way then, okay, choose a story that shows a strength that you have and at the same time probably represents the culture of whatever company or organization that's offering that scholarship. That's another good way of thinking about it. But yeah, no to credit card information, no to social security. You're gonna hear that from me so many times tonight. Just don't do it. It's a bad idea.
Thank you for that point. Typically, if they're trying to charge you money to apply for a scholarship, it's a really good point. That's usually a scam waiting to happen. So that's good information that you're providing to our guests here. Scholarships are free, so you shouldn't have to pay any money or give any of your personal information out. And like Justine said, definitely, and Connie brought this up also, is definitely reach out to your high school counselor and ask them, hey, are you familiar with this scholarship? Would you be able to look into this and help me look into this so I know that this is a legitimate source? So thank you for that.
Excellent. I did see in the chat asking for tips for asking for letters of recommendation, which I think we'll be able to cover a little bit later on when we do our Q&A portion. But that did bring up an excellent point that I do think that some scholarships will ask for a letter of recommendation from either a teacher or a community member that knows the applicant well. So if that's something that either of you would like to speak on a little bit, and then maybe in the Q&A session, we'll talk about tips for asking for a letter of recommendation if needed by a scholarship application.
Yeah, so a lot of the scholarships I applied for did request a letter of recommendation or a couple. And they usually specify who could write that letter of recommendation, whether it has to be someone in the education realm, so like your teacher, counselor, that fields, or it could, like Kendall was saying, could be like a community member, like your boss that you're working for. If you're tutoring or volunteering, those can also be letters of recommendations, but they'll usually have specifics on who's able to write the letters of rec for you. But yes, it is a common request in a lot of scholarships is to get a letter of rec. And we can talk about it later on tips, because it can be a little nerve-wracking asking for letters of recommendations.
Oh, yes. Yes, it can. All right. So we're talking a lot about the logistics of applying for scholarships. But now we're kind of wondering, like, why do we need scholarships, right? Like, what are common college expenses besides tuition that applicants and students might be able to use these scholarships for? And we'll start with Connie for this one.
Yes, so scholarships are a little tricky sometimes when you actually are awarded the scholarship. You're like, yay, I get the money. Sometimes they will just send you a check in the mail, and sometimes they'll need to send it to your financial institution or your college's financial institution. And that is where it can get a little tricky because sometimes when in my case, when they sent me a check, I was like, oh yes, straight into my bank account. Could be pretty much used for anything. But a lot of scholarships want to make sure that the money that they're giving you is for your education. So they'll send the check directly to your institution that you're going to go to. So in that case, it was a little tricky for me because my financial aid package, so that's another thing that we can talk about during Q&A, but I got a financial aid package from Stanford University, and they did it based on needs. So it was a needs-based scholarship, or not even a scholarship, it was financial aid. And there was a component where it was like student contribution. So that student contribution could have been through work study or through other means, but I was supposed to fill that student contribution. And I think at that time it was like $2,500 or something. And my scholarship that sent money to Stanford exceeded that $2,500. So they put the money towards that $2,500 that I was supposed to fulfill to finish my tuition package. And then anything above that went to, they took away from my financial aid, because they're like, well, we calculated based on your FAFSA that you only need this much amount of aid, and you already were awarded more than $2,500 through scholarships. So now we're just going to deduct from your financial aid. And I'm like, no. Like, I don't want that to happen. Like, you're pretty much taking free money away from me. So in that case, I reached out to the scholarship after I hit my $2,500, and I knew other scholarships were wanting to send it to the institution. I reached out to those scholarship committees and explained the situation. And then most of them were able to send me the check directly. And that's how I avoided that. But I don't think I even answered the question. What are common college expenses besides tuition? So, wow, totally went on a tangent. But I want to stress that is that make sure your institution isn't taking money away from you based on your scholarships. So other expenses, there are a lot. College is expensive. They talk about room and board. So room and board is like lodging is your room, and board is like your food. And so depending on which college you go to, if you're able to live outside of campus, sometimes that is cheaper because you don't have to go into the full room and board package. And it's a package where they like combine the cost of living and the cost for dining in one. Sometimes that could be cheaper. So room and board is a huge expense. And so for example, my room and board freshman year was $17,000 for the year. And that's just room your living and then the food that you eat. And that does not include the books that you have to buy. And books are super expensive. And if you're on the quarter system, you're like cycling through books within 10 weeks and you're like, I have to buy more books. Oh my gosh. There are methods and ways to try to find books online, but potentially have a virus blocker. But there's also like making friends with upperclassmen who had already taken that the year before and didn't sell their books. There's lots of resell, lots of used textbook resell. I would say go there, don't go straight to the bookstore. Also, the library also has those books. So if you're not really sure and still scoping out a class, go to the library, check out the book and go there. So yeah, that's the main one is like books, room, board, and then activities. So you're going to be joining clubs and hopefully be joining clubs and extracurriculars and all of that stuff. Yes, you can rent books now too. That is less expensive as well. So good point. Yeah, so those are the main expenses, I would say. Justine, are there other expenses that I'm completely missing? Probably.
That's mostly what I was going to say as well. Especially me, I love my textbooks. And so even if people say, oh, I passed this class without textbook. No, I need the textbook. Like I want to read the textbook. I actually do. And so I made a point to have those. I'm a huge snacker, especially when I'm stressed out. And there will be times when I will be sleep deprived. So coffee it is, and SDSU Starbucks it is. There you go. And then now I'm actually currently looking for scholarships myself because I will be doing clinical rotation soon. And a lot of the weeks have to be out of area. So it's like, okay, now I have to pay for rent where I'm going to be temporarily for 8 to 13 weeks. So a lot of things to consider. And apart from that, I'm still continuously getting textbooks, but luckily I made friends with the class above myself and I was able to get all the PDFs, which are lighter. You don't have to carry a physical book and it's all on your computer.
Thank you both. This next question is actually for both Justine and Connie. Why did you choose the scholarship or the scholarships that you chose? Was there any specific reason? Was there something that attracted you to that scholarship? Maybe you were familiar with the scholarship. Can you share a little bit about that?
I chose some of the ones that I did just because they were pretty easy. There were ones that were offered by really big companies, but like what Connie was saying earlier, it's really hard to get the ones that are offered at a national level. So maybe you have a better time or easier time pursuing scholarships that are more local. So let's say we have Coca-Cola and they regularly offer scholarships and their application is relatively easy. So maybe the chances of you getting that would be pretty low, but apply to those anyway. And apart from that, I tried going after the ones because they already represent what I do. So when I was volunteering at Sharp Medical Center in Chula Vista, I applied for the scholarship there and I ended up receiving it, and the research one because I was doing research. But you know what, even before that, I wasn't involved in research and I didn't even know that there was a scholarship that they were applying that you can potentially apply to. But yeah, just be open-minded, not too open-minded. Don't fall for those online ones. But yeah, I wanted to choose the scholarships that I thought were really good opportunities because they had something more to offer apart from just scholarships. They also had experience and they also resembled what I was doing at the time.
Yeah, so I went on that big, huge tangent about applying local. And that was my strategy on which scholarships to choose from. I was like, well, I went through that already. But yeah, so why did I choose those? I chose those because they were local. There was probably a better chance for me to get them. I also did, obviously there's so many scholarships. So even within that realm of paring it down is identifying what are they asking for? So if they're asking for like 15 short essays and 3 letters of recommendations, your unofficial transcripts, everything, then I'm like, okay, I will rather spend my time on maybe 3 applications that have 5 essays each, and then spread out the chances of receiving those scholarships more. So yeah, I was looking at the list provided. Some of those scholarships, they're just asking 1 250-word essay. Go for those. And they're local, go for those. I was looking at the previous ones that I got, Ford Salute to Education, that one too. Look at the scholarships that they're offering, multiple scholarships. So like, I think the Ford at that time was like $21,000 scholarships. So if they're offering multiple scholarships, then your chances are even higher. So it's a numbers game. So you have a limited number of hours in the day to write essays and apply for scholarships. Try to figure out which ones you're more better suited to actually get. And if they're offering multiple, then that's even better.
That is a super great point. We are definitely playing a probabilities game when we're applying to these scholarships. I will say though, I would probably advise to apply to some of those that are like longer essays, because when we think of the whole pool of people applying, there's probably less people wanting to invest time in those. So it's probably wouldn't hurt to throw in a few of those scholarship applications too. But yeah, I totally agree with all that probability and numbers game stuff. And then I know that there are different scholarships for high schoolers and college students. So once our seniors get into college and start their freshman year at whatever school they choose to attend, what's the difference between high school and college type scholarships? Oh, and sorry, and this will be for both of you. Maybe we'll have Justine start on this one.
To be honest, I'm not so sure because I've only mostly received scholarships in college. But when I did attempt to apply for the high school ones, I feel that they were relatively a little bit easier. And then by the time we get, I guess it depends again on the scholarship you're applying for, but the ones that I have personally experienced, I think that college ones dive a little more in depth.
That's actually perfect, Justine, because I did not apply for any scholarships in college. So I can only speak to the high school scholarships. So I just want to address the question that was brought up in the Ford Salute. I had a question about asking for a social security. On the application itself, it asks for the social security number. It does, and I think I did provide it. So I don't know if you chose to omit the social security, but if they would deem the application incomplete, you could also reach out to them and ask, why are you asking for my social security? But I do remember I did provide social security. I don't know, I checked my credit score. It is to your comfort level. And I just checked, and yes, they did ask for that. So I would actually email them and just be like, hey, given the whole situation about fraud and everything nowadays, do I have to provide my social security number in my application, or will it be deemed incomplete? If it is deemed like complete, and then later on you need to verify after I do get the scholarship that I have a social security, like give me a call and then I'll let you know what my social security number is. So there are ways around it. Reach out to them. But yes, I recall I did provide it, but we live in a different age than 2011 too. So I think they would understand. So going back to the question of what or how was your experience with applying to scholarships in college and in high school? Did not apply for anything in college. In high school, what my experience was dang, I thought I was done with essays after I submitted my college applications. No, it just, after college applications were done, then it was just all scholarships at that point. But when you do get that email or that call saying you got that scholarship, all of it is worth it at that point. You're like, oh my gosh, yay, money. But the experience was actually fun. Mrs. Hughes isn't on this call right now, but I fell in love with writing through my AP language class because of Mrs. Hughes. She taught me how to write, and I hated writing before that class. I was like, no, I am math, science, I can't do writing. But she was able to coach and teach me. And so I spent so many hours for lunch and after school, and she had this big, huge board of like, when you can go and sign up for review sessions for her to review your essays. And I took advantage of that. And I was one of her frequent flyers, and was just constantly writing essays. And once you write enough essays, just tweak it. Like a lot of the scholarship essays, they're asking you for the same things over and over. So just you tweak it to mold what they're asking, and look at their mission statement, look what they're doing in the community, look at all that, and like throw in buzzwords that, yeah, those are tips. But my experience was, it was a lot of work, but at the end it was worth it. Yeah. Could you repeat the name of the Mrs. Hughes? Hughes, Mariana Hughes. She was my AP language teacher. She is still there. She is amazing. And yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you both. Next question, Justine, this one's for you. Did you take out any student loans?
Yes, there is no way I can afford the program that I am in right now. So it's something that is a very hot topic for PT, because there's a lot of programs that charge a lot. My current semester is $32,000, about that. And that doesn't take into consideration the expenses that I will be facing in 2 months because of my clinicals. So I will be placed somewhere else, and that's a whole another struggle right there. But yeah, I would say really factor in the tuition, and if it's something you think is worth it based on the school that you decided to get. And I mean, I chose my school because we're one of the top schools for physical therapy. And I have a lot of friends that got into other PT programs. And when I got into my school and I physically went on campus, it was a lot of stuff. And we have a lot of research labs. We had so much equipment. And so I can see where the money's going to. And it's something that the dean actually said so himself. He said, you know, I'm going to address the white elephant in the room, but you kind of have to pay for quality. I mean, it's like comforting, but not comforting, but you know why, and you know why you're paying what you're paying. So just weigh out the pros and cons and think about what strategies that you would want to do in the future after graduation in order to pay that.
All righty, wonderful. Thanks, Justine. Next one for Connie. How did financial aid and scholarships help your finances in college, just general and overall? And how did you budget your scholarship awards with your financial obligations?
Wow, sorry, my mouse was just possessed. I don't know what happened. You can hear me? We're good? Okay. How did financial aid scholarships help your finances in college? Wow. Financial aid was a huge thing. I would not have been able to go to Stanford without it, or I would have taken a lot of student loans. But at Stanford, there it's needs-based financial aid. So you submit your FAFSA. Same, I did it for UCs and the state schools, and Stanford also asked for FAFSA. And then based on that information, they determined how much need-based financial aid you'll need, and then how much you're expected to pay along with your family. And so I was able to receive a substantial financial aid package from Stanford, and it pretty much left me paying tuition back then was $48,000 for the year. And that's tuition. And then room and board was like $16,000, $17,000. So it was like $60,000 for the year for tuition and room and board. That is crazy. But because of the financial aid package, they were able to award me a lot, like almost all of the tuition. And so I was just, me and my family just had to pay for room and board and a little bit of tuition. And so that helped a ton. Like actually, from that, comparatively, I also was between Stanford. Before I got into Stanford, I thought I was going to go to UCLA. And my UCLA financial aid package was actually less than Stanford. And so I would have had to pay more to go to UCLA than Stanford. So it just all depends on your school's calculation after you submit your FAFSA and what their policies are on awarding needs base. So right now, Stanford's, it's an amazing program where it's like, if you earn less than, if your family's household earns less than $100,000 a year, it's free tuition and free room and board. So all the 60, which is 60 back then, it's probably now 65, 70, all of that's covered. If your family earns less than 125,000, then it's they cover fully tuition and you're just doing room and board. So it has dramatically increased the financial aid package. And so it's all based on your school. I think the UCs and the state schools have more calculation, and they have to factor in a lot more of like what funding opportunities there are. And I think a private school may have a larger endowment that can fund more financial aid for students who need it. So that really helped me in college. And how did you budget your scholarship award with your financial obligations? So there's a community service work study, or there was a student portion and then a parent portion and then like a financial aid portion. The student portion is what I was expected to pay based on working at school or based on my savings. So pretty much my scholarships helped me pay that portion and have other funds for like books and all of that stuff. So financial aid and scholarships really helped me out a lot. And I think there was a question, sorry, I see them pop up and I don't read all of them, but I think there was a question about rolling scholarships versus a one-time scholarship. So all of my scholarships that I applied for and I received were one-time scholarships. So they all came the first year. My brother had a rolling scholarship over 4 years. And so there are different types of scholarships, and they'll outline it when you're applying for it. It tells you when they would disperse the money and all that stuff. Yes.
Thank you, Connie. The next question is for Justine. Did you do any work study programs while you were in college? And how did you get the job?
I did. And well, I love school. So I'm in school all day, every day, from like morning till nighttime. And I will be there so much that all the staff will know me. So one time one of my first classes was actually in an English and what was that? A personal development course, which is 2 courses tied together. And it's part of one of the cultural learning communities in Southwestern College. And because I was part of that, they were actually tied with their counseling center pretty good. And if you don't know, Southwestern College has more than one learning communities. And basically their English classes, their literature focused on whatever that learning community focuses on. So because I was involved with that, I was exposed to when they were trying to create a program that actually supports first year college students in that school. And so one time, my teacher actually introduced me to a counselor that was recruiting, and they needed peer mentors, and it's called the First Year Experience Program. And so I applied and I got it. So that was my first work study, and I worked there for 3 years. And then when I transferred over to San Diego State, I did the same thing. I lived on, I didn't actually live on campus, but I felt like I did. I could have lived in the lab. There were treatment tables there. I could have just spent the night there. But yeah, I was just spending so much time in the lab, and the staff knew me, and eventually a position opened up, and it was in the exercise and nutritional sciences department. And I don't even know what to call that position, because you just come in and you just help them out with whatever they need help in. So maybe kind of like an aide. So I guess my point is just make sure that you're exposing yourself to the right people, to the staff, and sooner or later, you know, the opportunity will find you if you haven't found it first.
Great. Thank you so much, Justine. And so I know that both of you have been giving so many great pieces of advice, words of wisdom. This is kind of just a general question if there are any other kind of random things that you'd like to say about scholarships. But for both of you, we'll start with Connie. What are some tips that you would recommend in choosing to apply for specific scholarships? So again, just any more words of wisdom that you might have.
Yeah, I pretty much, that's my tip, is start local, start smaller. And Kendall, you did bring up a good point. Like if a scholarship has 15 questions, like what are the odds that someone is going to apply for all 15? So yeah, it is a numbers game. So just wager that in when you're trying to find your scholarships and applying, but definitely look at the list of previous awardees. I mean, I think like all of South Bay counselors should get together and see what, like, all of the scholarships that the South Bay seniors have been awarded, and just create like this massive list for everyone, because that is where you go through. And I could pop the ones that I was awarded in the chat, so you can see those. But yeah, Bonita Optimus, that's $1,000. MTS Coca-Cola, I got a laptop. Like, so I'll pop this in there, but there's going to be a list sent out later, and they have a lot of good scholarships to start from. Yeah.
I would say choose something that applies to you. Obviously, make sure that you're eligible for it, and choose something that maybe the scholarship isn't something that you thought you would do for a scholarship, but it's an opportunity for you to do something new. So like I said earlier, I am personally pursuing more scholarships at the moment for, you know, to support myself for school right now. And I'm part of the, what do we call ourselves? So basically there's a field in physical therapy that focuses on neurological disorders. And they do provide scholarships sometimes. And one of them is, so traumatic brain injuries, just talk about what are the different treatments for TBI. And I forgot that it's 2022. We are in the TikTok era. So you have to provide that in 30 seconds. So that's really interesting. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. It's going to be challenging.
Thank you both. And this is our final question for the night for both Justine and Connie. And we'll get into some Q&A. So if you could go back, what advice would you give to a high school senior?
Doesn't have to be scholarship related.
Yeah, yeah, yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay, my scholarship advice would be to apply as many as you can, but also remember it's your senior year. Like your senior year is an important year. It's you're closing a chapter and opening another. So make sure that you're still enjoying your senior year and not just so stressed about the next step, or else you're going to miss out on a lot of joy in the current step that you're in. So that is my scholarship advice. My just advice in general for a high school senior, I'm going to give you college advice because this is what I tell every high school senior that I like interview or mentor, is that I would recommend, if you can, do not take summer school. Do not take summer school classes. If you can, I would recommend that and instead do internships, because internships are a wonderful way for you to really explore a field that you're interested in pursuing. There's so much that you learn outside of the classroom that you cannot learn within a textbook. And so summertime is a time for you to explore different fields and different jobs. So like the first year, you can explore something that you were interested during your freshman year. Like, oh, I'm studying this. Oh, maybe I should look for an internship in this. And then you can get the feel and the lay of the land. And if that doesn't work out, then you're like, okay, well, now I know I'm not going to waste my sophomore year studying all of this stuff because I don't like to work in this environment. Then sophomore year, you could tailor your courses then. And then after sophomore year, you can do a sophomore year internship and explore another field. And then if you fell in love with that, then you really know what to hone in on your junior year. And then your junior year's internship, you can return back to that place and flourish more, or you can explore the next thing in that profession. So that is my advice that I would give for someone who's entering into college, is that use your summers for internships. And then also your first quarter, your first semester, don't go too hard on classes. This is the time when most people are entering school and trying to find friends, trying to find clubs, trying to find who they are. And it's like a new time in your life. So enjoy it and learn who you are. Find friends. The friends that you make in college can be your friends for a lifetime. So I think it is important to understand that life isn't all about school and grades. It's about the memories that you make, the friendships that you form, and the relationships that you build. So keep that in perspective when you are applying for scholarships and you're looking at your final grades and your AP classes and what college am I getting into. Just remember, in the grand scheme of things, you are a wonderful human, and that you're gonna have a really good life as long as you are living it. There you go. That's my advice.
I totally agree with you on the friends part. Don't be too busy for life. Right now, I'm having way much more fun than I thought I was gonna have fun in grad school. And I attribute a lot of that to my friends, and being in physical therapy. We're super up close and personal with each other. Just look at each other and like, hey, can I try something on your hip? Can I try something on your shoulder? And then I just need you laying down. And then, you try whatever tests to test whatever condition. And they really make the experience. So definitely same thing. Friends, find your friends. And this advice actually is more general in terms of, it's not mostly for just, like my advice for a high school senior, even for college, even for life, when you're applying for a job, when you're applying or thinking about applying for a job, thinking about applying for an internship. But when I was in high school and the earlier years of college, I was really shy. And I felt that I didn't really put my foot down enough. So my advice is, please advocate for yourself. What we were talking about earlier, if you can't find the information online, ask someone, ask your representative. So when you're looking for those opportunities and you're not sure if you're eligible or if you fit the criteria when you compare yourself to the other applicants in that pool, don't say no. Let them say no to you. Don't say no to yourself. Because if you're the one that says no first, then you never know what opportunities you could be missing.
Excellent. Thank you both. Those are all very amazing words of wisdom. Perfect. So now we do have quite a few questions in the chat. So we'll go ahead and hand this over to Gloria and Emmy now.
Thank you very much. And I love all the answers. Some of these questions have been totally answered or partially answered, but we'll ask them anyway. And you can just give a brief summary if you touched on it before. The first question from Kathy DeWar is, what are some tips on navigating the mass of available scholarships?
Yeah, so I would say start local, start with the list that is already provided by your school. Reach out to if you knew upperclassmen or you knew other people who had received scholarships, or you know someone from a different school, see what their list has. So I would start from there and then venture out to Google, because Google is just so much information. It's kind of hard to start there. But yeah, I would say to narrow down, start with the list that the school provides.
Great, thank you. Emmy?
Okay, the next question is from Marinetta Agnes. She wants to know, hi, I want to ask if you're eligible for scholarship, even if you have a 529 savings from your parents.
Yes, I think the 529, you have to disclose it during your FAFSA application, but for general scholarships, I don't think they ask for it. It's maybe some needs-based scholarships will ask for that information, but I think the majority of scholarships won't ask about your 529 savings or your financial background. I think you should be good.
Okay. Dalia, hello, how early can you start applying for scholarships and when can you expect a response back?
I would say as soon as possible. Again, it's going to depend on what scholarship you will be applying for, and each organization, each school, they're going to approach it differently. So maybe even though they already have that deadline, sometimes it's going to take a couple months before they would actually award scholarship winners.
Thank you.
The next question I think might have been answered already, but Ellie Marianne asked, are scholarships on a year-to-year basis, or does it cover a specific number of years?
It depends on what the scholarship is stating. Yeah.
There's also a lot of scholarships that don't really award you the money based on, how many years you have left. They just award you a specific amount.
And like both of you said, there are some scholarships that are rolling scholarships, and that usually depends on how well you do in school. If you maintain your high GPA that they have given at the beginning, and they have stated in their application that it is a rolling scholarship, it can be renewed every year, but not all scholarships are renewable as far as I know. The next question is from M. Moina. Do students need to wait for senior year to apply for scholarships?
No, they don't. Though many scholarships are prior, like one of the categories is to be a senior. But there are a lot of scholarships. There's scholarships for middle schoolers. There are scholarships everywhere. But the more local ones are generally geared towards seniors. But if you have a junior or a sophomore and you're already here asking these questions, good for you. You already are on top of it. And like now you can start planning, look at the essays. Generally, scholarships will reuse essays, essay prompts that they used the previous year. So I would say the majority is during senior year. So if you're earlier, look at the scholarship essays and start prepping for that.
Thank you.
The next question from Nicole is pretty much the same as the prior one. So is it okay if I go ahead and, because she's asking about when should she start, when should students start researching scholarship? And I think just Connie just answered that question. So next one, I think you answered it, Connie, during your answer. I think it's talking about where are the reputable places to find scholarship. I don't know if you wanted to address that again, or do we just go ahead and pass that? Okay.
Go ahead and summarize it, Connie.
Okay, reputable places, starting off with your high school is always a good chance that these scholarships were already vetted. And if you do see a scholarship like what was mentioned, was check in with that potentially is sketchy, check in with your counselor and have them look at it first. But yeah, forums like school forums. So if your high school has one, if your school district has a forum where they're posting scholarships, if your college has a forum, those are generally reputable places to start looking.
Thank you. Let's see. Dalia, are there scholarships that combine both sports and grades? Justine?
I'm not sure, to be honest, but I don't think why not, unless you are part of a program that has explicitly say that you can't combine certain things together. So just making sure that you're reading the fine lines.
And there are a lot of scholarships that are specific for sports. So look at those. Those have it as well. And when they're combining sports and grades, when applying for college, similar with applying for scholarships, they look at the holistic application. And if you don't have like a 5.0, it's okay, right? Like you have a lot of extracurriculars. You're not just a number. And I think the essay component and the letter of recommendation components of applications are there to support you on painting a picture of who you are. You're just not a number, you're a person, you're a student, you are interested in sports and music and extracurriculars. So those are the places to shine. There's just one little box that says, what's your GPA? Like that's a small part of a larger application. So I would definitely say like put your best foot forward, and whatever you're passionate about, what you're spending most of your time about, write that in your essays.
Great, thank you. Amy, you're muted.
I'm sorry. So thank you. Next question is from Nicole Sanchez. Did you use the same essay for multiple scholarship applications?
When I was younger, I definitely did that to save the time. But as I got older, I learned that counts as plagiarism, even though it's your own work. So you might want to change it a little bit, up it up a notch.
Tweak it a little. A lot of questions will be similar, but they're not going to be the same, and you're applying for different organizations. So look at their mission statement, look what they do, tweak your essay a little bit to tailor it to that.
Yes. That applies to resumes as well.
Yeah, yeah. But if you're already writing essays, oh my goodness, tweak it and just reuse it. You have already spent so much time and energy into writing this essay. Might as well use it where you can.
Thank you. Can some scholarships also apply to schools outside the US?
That really depends on what scholarship you're going to apply to.
So like both of you have said many times, read the fine line.
Yeah, and that's a very specific question as well. I would reach out to those scholarships and ask them even before you apply. if your student is already looking to do a school outside of the US, yeah, I would confirm with the scholarship even before you take the effort to apply, if they would send money there to that institution elsewhere.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Next question is, scholarships are independent of financial aid that can be received through FAFSA or Cal Grants, right?
Yes, they are independent. There was that little sidebar of my whole conversation of how some scholarships took away from my financial aid, but generally they are independent of each other. And at that time, when you receive the scholarship, you have already received your FAFSA, so I don't think you have to like disclose that information.
Although some scholarships may ask you to include your FAFSA along with the application. Okay, the next one, very important, tips for asking for letters of recommendations.
I have a few. So basically, you want to look for an individual that could speak about your personality. So one of the pet peeves that a professor might had, because I had this class with him and I noticed that so many students ask for a letter rec from this guy because they have an A in this class. And it's kind of odd because yes, you're an A student, you're doing well in this class, but some of them don't even have that relationship with this professor. They're only asking because of the grade. And so if you do that, then it's like, what can this guy say about you? And the reason why you want to have a letter of recommendation is because you want to select an individual that you have a little bit more intimate of a relationship with, someone maybe you've worked with, someone who has seen you grow. Select a person that can actually say the things that the application itself can say, because they know you're applying because you're eligible. They know you have that GPA. They know that you have these prerequisites, but what do they not know about you? What can this person say about your character?
Terrific, yes. Anything else, Connie?
That was awesome. Yes, find the person who knows you outside of just the classroom. And even if they know you in the classroom and you're like actively participating and raising your hand and helping other students when they need it, that in of itself, it gives them something to write about. So tips on asking, find someone that you've already established a good rapport with, who has seen your character, who has seen your good side, the good side of your character, that can write a good letter of recommendation for. I have seen where students have given like templates, but that's not sincere, right? But I have seen some teachers have asked for students to send in their resume or like send in what they want the teacher to write about. So that kind of gives the teacher something to highlight, what the student wants the teacher to highlight, and gives them a sounding board on like how to prepare and how to start the letter of recommendation. And just know that a lot of teachers are writing a lot of recommendations. So they do sometimes have boilerplates, and that's totally okay. But as long as they can tweak it to be more personable, that's awesome. And yeah, if you're asking for a letter of recommendation for a scholarship, include all of the information that you submitted for the scholarship and what that scholarship is about. Just don't go up to them and say like, hey, can you write this letter of recommendation for the Ford Salute to Education Scholarship? No, give them the application that you submitted for the Ford Salute to Education. White out your social security if you put that in there. And include the essay that you wrote for that Ford Salute, because then they can read it and they can see like, what are the prompts that you're answering, they can see a little glimpse of you as well. And then they can even tailor the letter of recommendation that addresses that scholarship committee by name and addresses in the line item, that scholarship is way more impressive than a boilerplate scholarship general to whom it may concern, right? So the scholarship, the folks who wrote my scholarship, my letter of recommendation, they saved it on their computer, and I would go to them like constantly sending them emails like, hey, I'm applying to this. And then they would just change the name of the scholarship and then who it's addressed to and the address. And it was just like constant, can you tweak this? Can you tweak this? This is that. And then I would send them my essay. So establish those good networks early on. For the people on here, sophomore, juniors, establish those good rapport with those teachers that are eloquent. And it also helps if that teacher is an awesome writer. And nudge, nudge, find those teachers who are awesome writers, because they can make a dead flower look beautiful.
And
Thank you for those great ideas.
I have 2 more tips as well. Those were lovely tips. I have 2 more tips. So my first one has to do with deadlines, and all kinds of scholarships and, college programs. Anything that you're getting a letter of rec for has a deadline. And even if you are super responsible as an applicant and getting in those deadlines and meeting everything, you have now this extra person in your letter writer that you're having to worry about them meeting a deadline. So what I really found was helpful, and I heard this from someone way back, was to make sure that your letter writer knows the deadline of the scholarship, but when you're asking them for the letter, actually give them an earlier deadline. So give them like a week, maybe a week and a half before, so that you know that they're going to turn it in before the scholarship is due. So then you're not stressing at the very last minute for, having them getting it turned in like the day the scholarship is due. So that was one piece of advice. And then the second tip that I really found helpful was, you really want a letter writer that's going to write you not only a letter of recommendation, but a strong letter of recommendation. So when you are asking for a letter, and I would recommend asking them verbally, like either in person or in this world of Zoom, over Zoom, that when you're asking them, ask them if they would be willing to write you a strong letter of recommendation, because sometimes, even if we think that we have a great relationship with the letter writer, it might not be as strong as we wanted it to. And although it might be, a little painful if your letter writer says, like, thank you for asking me, if I'm willing to write a strong letter, but unfortunately, I don't know if I'd be able to write you that powerful of one. Even though that might be a little bit painful, it would be a lot worse if your scholarship or your grad program or your college program got a very weak letter of recommendation. And so if you're able to have that answer from your letter writer and have them be honest with you, then you're able to spend your time and seek out a better letter writer that's going to write you a better letter of recommendation. So those are my 2 little tips.
Thank you. Those were fantastic tips, everyone. I hope you took note. The next one, tips for a math and science brain student that hates to write essays. I think, Connie, you mentioned that when you mentioned Mrs. Hughes.
Yeah, I did. I was also very math sciencey and did not like writing. And I understand that not everyone could have had a Mrs. Hughes as the teacher to really spur that love of writing into you. It is hard. I'm not going to say it's easy. I would say like get with someone who is really into writing and brainstorm with them ideas. Have them ask about, you can write about math and science. You can write about how you hate writing, and that's totally okay. And that like shows that you are being honest, and what you are writing was difficult for you to write. You could start it off with that and then write about science and math. But yeah, writing essays is a lot in college. So though science and math, but yeah, long story short, you're going to have to write essays. I think it'll be very helpful for scholarships. You are going to have to write essays for the majority of them. And it is helpful if you have someone, a peer, a mentor, an English teacher, or someone who just really likes to write, brainstorm with you and get some ideas on. And what is it? The stream of conscious thought, just start typing, and then start typing after you look at the essay prompt and just keep typing, like set a timer for 15 minutes and don't stop, even if you're saying like, because then you can go back and look at it and be like, oh, okay, I can delete this, tweak this, add along this. But that's one easy way to just start writing is some stream of conscious thought.
Also, I want to say, I'm sure you have a lot of stories to tell. Find that one story to tell, make it really simple, but make it simple but meaningful. I hate writing, but when I started prepping to get ready for interviews and stuff, I actually started liking to write cover letters, and I started getting a little bit more creative about it. So if you can say something that's going to make you stand out, I'm actually going to tell you the title of one of my cover letters, and it says flying an F-18 Super Hornet fighter jet. And it's like, okay, this isn't physical therapy. And it's very catchy because it's like, what is this person interviewing for? It gets so confusing. And then it dives deeper into, like in this field, we work with people who are recent stroke victims, stroke survivors. And well, this story was specific to a naval pilot. He was actually on the news way back, but he was in a coma after a hit and run. And we found him, I met him in physical therapy because he was wearing a helmet. He really stood out to me. This man is wearing a helmet, and he was just walking, and he was like barely walking. And I was just telling them about this experience and about how his goal right now, he can't even do this with his foot, but he wants to eventually drive, and he wants to eventually fly his plane again. And if this man is willing to overcome that obstacle, I'm looking for my Super Hornet fighter jet too, because I can overcome obstacles too. So find something that is pretty empowering and meaningful to you, and that could really hook onto your reader, and let them see that, wow, yeah, this person is super motivational. This person is really capable of handling this. Maybe we should go give them a scholarship because they should fulfill their dreams. Yeah, be creative.
Thank you.
So the next few questions I think has been addressed already. I know Connie addressed the Ford Salute to Education question, and the next two are also regarding reusing the essays for the scholarship. So I'll go over to the following one. It's more, I guess, more or less question regarding financial aid. I guess if you guys can answer this question. Is the financial aid package given when, if they accept you?
Yes, it's given after an acceptance.
Yeah, they wouldn't work unless you are actually accepted to a school and when you actually enroll. So when I was applying to programs, I think from my memory, you can put 10 different schools on your FAFSA application. And depending on what school you're going to enroll to, like everything falls after that.
Okay. One other question. Do you have to have your university location, and field of study decided already before applying for some scholarships?
Sorry, I wanted to address the previous question, the financial aid package given when and if they accept you. I believe they gave it to, regardless if you actually enrolled in the college, if you're accepted, they'll give you the financial aid package because that is going to help you determine whether or not you can afford to go to that places. So I had, for all of the schools that I had applied to and got accepted to, I had a financial aid package for all of them. So I could make a decision based on how much it would cost to go to all of these places, where to go. So I just want to address that. And then the next question, do you have to have the university location field of study decided? No, you don't. Before you apply, you do not need to know where you're going and what. Generally, like some scholarship questions may ask you, do you already know what you want to study and why? And then that you could just go with what you're interested in, but you don't have to have it already decided.
Yes, thank you. And just for everyone, we are approaching the end of the program, and we would appreciate it if you could hang on with us for about 10 more minutes. We're almost at the end. Thank you. Demi?
So the next question was, where can I find information for middle school, and what kind of scholarships I may find for MS, I guess.
Middle school.
Middle school.
I didn't go to middle school and I wasn't here yet at that time. So I think Connie can help us out.
I did not apply for scholarships in middle school. I was definitely trying to adjust to middle school. I don't think I could have applied to scholarships even if I wanted to, but I would reach out to your middle school counselor and see if there are scholarships that they have there for portal, like a scholarship portal for middle schoolers.
Alex, can you add anything to that about middle school?
Yeah, like Connie said, definitely reach out to your middle school counselor. And I will be discussing additional scholarship search websites where students are able to look for middle school scholarships as well.
Terrific. And one comment from our CEO, she says, ask the professional people in your life or your parents' life if their employer offers scholarships. And let's see, I believe from Nicole Sanchez, she says at San Diego State University, you can access the financial aid through their portal. And I believe that the address was put in the chat before. So now it's time for Alex to tell you where can you find some of these resources.
Thank you. I believe we are going to share a screen. Kendall, are you sharing or did you want me to share?
I got it. Just give me 1 second.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you so much, Kendall. So in this slide, we have a few of our current scholarship and financial aid links that are located on our school counseling webpage at Eastlake High School. So the first one is our current 2021-2022 scholarship bulletin. I believe Connie might have accessed this one already, and she might have been reading off. I heard her mention the Ford Scholarship Foundation and a few others. I think Justine, have you looked through that one also? You can just nod your head, maybe yes, no, maybe so. Yeah, all right, perfect. So every year, every academic year, our scholarship counselors at Eastlake High School, Miss DiDio and Mrs. Robles, they are our two scholarship counselors, and they provide our scholarship bulletin. So they are assigned to the responsibility of reaching out and receiving information on upcoming scholarships or available scholarships in the South Bay, as well as nationally. And the scholarship bulletin has about over 30 pages of available scholarships. It is true that the majority of the scholarships that we post, in fact, all of them, are for seniors. However, if you're a 9th grader, a 10th grader, or 11th grader, you should start looking at those scholarships now, because that would give you time to kind of get an idea of which scholarships you feel you might be able to apply for and have access to, and really fill out, whether or not you think that you're meeting a lot of the criteria needed for those scholarships in particular. If you have any questions regarding any of those scholarships, you can just let your counselor at Eastlake High School know that you were looking at this scholarship. Any advice that they can give to you to kind of help support you in qualifying or being a good candidate for that scholarship. So that's the scholarship bulletin. Underneath that, we also have additional scholarship websites. where students are able to browse through those websites and type in key search words or in the search engine or filter out certain results. So somebody asked about middle school scholarships. That might be a great opportunity for you to review those scholarship search websites that we have available under that link. And then we have upcoming financial aid webinars. And most of the financial aid webinars are in second semester because the first semester ones have already passed. There's a lot of opportunities and a lot of local organizations that also provide scholarship webinars and information to students and parents. And majority of them are open access to everyone. So feel free to review that link and also see the upcoming webinars that are available coming up. And last but not least, our EHS counseling webpage. All things related to college, scholarships, academics. We also have grade level presentations that students can access for each and every grade level. And also in terms of gearing you up for your college application, information on financial aid, as well as scholarships. So the EHS counseling webpage, what we always tell our seniors is, hey, this is your new best friend, because all things college related can be found on our webpage. And of course, if you don't see a scholarship available, you can always search for a scholarship, or you can also ask your counselor for any information regarding a scholarship in particular that you feel you might want to apply for in the future. So that concludes the links.
All right. Thank you, Alex. Remember, the resource websites that he has shared will be sent to all registrants, and they will have live links. Thank you, Connie and Justine, for your insightful and important information. Thank you, Kendall, for moderating this timely and important discussion. And thank you, Emmy, for helping with all the fantastic chat questions. We hope that Connie and Justine's experience will encourage you to take the opportunity to apply for scholarships and not let scholarship money be unused. We have 2 $50 gift cards provided by North Island Credit Union to raffle off. Mrs. Janet Francis, our Eastlake Educational Foundation CEO, will now draw for the first winner from among our registrants. The winner needs to be present to win. So if your name is called, please indicate in the chat window that you are present, or unmute your microphone and let us know. Mrs. Francis, please select the first winner.
I actually have both of them here. Hannah Umora and Yang Nguyen. So Nancy from North Island Credit Union will be reaching out to you via email, and we'll provide you with the gift card numbers over the email. So you don't even need a card. You can just go spend them.
Mrs. Francis, we did say that they had to be present to win. And so do you still want to do that, or just skip that part?
Well, I see that Kang Nguyen is here.
Terrific, congratulations.
Hannah, I know Hannah was here right to the end, so I don't know if she caught these last few minutes. So I think that's fine.
Excellent, congratulations to both. So this concludes our panel discussion. You will receive a short 4-question follow-up survey to ask for your topic suggestions for our next panel. That's how we decided on having this one today. Thank you and have a great evening, everyone.